Welcome back to Good Morning Vail. We always have a lot going on here in the studio. Maddie's up gallivanting around Beaver Creek Mountain. We never know what she's up to. But here, I have some special guests. There's a lot of buzz happening in the studio today, and I'm here with Cary Hogan from Knapp Harvest, and she has brought in some special guests to talk about all things bees.
Yes.
Who do we have with us today?
Well, my name is Steele Thompson, and I'm representing the Bee Club as long as with us.
Okay.
I'm Maya. I'm Madison. I'm Gigi.
Hi, how is everybody doing? Thank you for getting up so early today. You said, oh, we got to get up an hour early.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but that's tough. Now you're TV stars, you got to do that kind of stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the 4-H beekeeping here in Eagle County and, you know, what's happening, what's going on, what kind of things do you want to talk about and make everybody aware of today?
Well, today we're talking about all the, let's say, chemicals that go into the flowers. They are really harmful to the bees, and we've had a ton of beehives that have died because of it. So that's what we're talking about today.
Let's back up a little bit and talk about the chemicals. How in the heck are chemicals getting into around all of our bees?
Well, all the tractors, they spray them to kill the mosquitoes, and when that happens, it lands on the flowers, and the bees get it pollination, pollen on their feet, and they bring it back to their hive, and then they make it into honey.
It's also being injected into the trees as well, and for some of the bees, that is the first food in the springtime. So they're ingesting it, and then it's causing a lot of stuff.
As well as dandelions. So, you know, everybody spraying their dandelions to make their lawn completely green doesn't really help us humans or the bees or our animals. So, you know, we're pleading to the public, please consider what you're using.
Dandelion, a beautiful little yellow flower. Who cares? I love dandelions in my yard. They're happy.
Yes.
Happy color. So let's not spray those things.
Yeah.
And it's not just affecting our bees, it's affecting the 946 native pollinators and bees.
So this just isn't something that's happening in gypsum. Where else is it happening?
It's happening worldwide.
Huh. So this is not just an issue here. It's an issue for Colorado, for the United States, for the entire world. We have to start being a little more responsible. So what are some steps we can take to, here we're trying to educate our viewers on what's going on and seek this with a real passion, but what else can we do as a group?
We can contact the BDCI.
Vector Disease Control International, or the BDCI.
Now, how about the organizations that are out there doing the spraying on all this stuff? Is there a way to contact them and say, hey, I don't want you to spray around my area, around my bees?
Yeah, you can just contact the BDCI, which is hired by Gypsum.
And you can request to not get your lawn sprayed or anything else.
You know, talk to your landscapers when you're doing your landscaping, find out what they're spraying with. You know, again, the more education we have, I don't think a lot of people really realize what they're doing when they do that. So, you know, and the SaveTheBees.org, all of these kind of things, you know, we can get involved in. And this group here, we have talked about how we can move forward and help in our community, bring more attention to the plight of the bees. So, you know, that's kind of how these things start is, you know, community concerns, and then gathering forces and be active.
Be active. Now, Steele, you said something about a couple hives have been lost. How you lost a couple hives?
Yes.
We lost 2 hives because we're pretty sure because of the pesticides.
And I did as well in gypsum. Last spring I opened my hives and they were completely dead, and that was a very sad day, and I'm going to blame it on the pesticides, but it could also be neighbors that are spraying. When they're spraying dandelions or whatever they're spraying, that drift comes over to my property and can harm my bees too. So you don't just make a decision for yourself, you're making a decision for the world when you decide to pick poison to fix things.
Yeah, and that's what it is. We're
poison.
spraying poison. And you're talking about your neighbor spraying it drifting over, but how far do bees fly when they collect their pollen?
Bees can fly up to 2 miles outside of your property and like outside of their hive, really, to collect pollen. So for even though you're not having it sprayed on your property, they're still going farther where pesticides are still being sprayed.
And they're bringing it right back to the hive and spreading it throughout the hive, which, you know, getting into that in just an expedited version of what it takes to manage a hive, it's not easy.
No.
And it's for the good of nature. The reason you're with the bees is not just for the honey, but bees are a wonderful natural resource for all of us. What kind of things do they do?
Well, for one, they make honey, and they also pollinate, so that's like a big part of why we have our beautiful flowers and plants and stuff. So.
Yeah. How many hives total do you have with 4-H?
Right now we have 2.
Okay. And if someone wants to look up and maybe want to help you out with some more hives or help try to fund the 4-H, how can they do that? I know you've got a lot of fundraisers that you do. You just had the Rocky Mountain Oyster not too long ago. That was a great event. What else do you have coming up?
I think we might be doing the outdoor expo, so if you guys want to go to that. And then, you know, just trying to stop all the pesticides and stuff like that too. But yeah.
Yeah.
And then Cary, I remember one time you were on the show and you're talking about this sign, and
Yep.
you can come down to Knapp Harvest and pick one of those
You
up.
sure can. I've got those posted. I've talked to my neighbors in Gypsum. I'm also on the do not spray list in Gypsum. You contact the town of Gypsum and you say, please do not spray. And I got pretty much my whole block, which helps a lot, because then I can depend on maybe, you know, no drift coming over of pesticides. So that makes a big difference, very much so.
Now, I was reading in the notes earlier about the number of species of native bees to Colorado, 946. We have a big responsibility as humans to make sure that we manage our natural resources like we talked before, and that we're mindful in everything that we do. What do you want to tell our viewers, main things, other than not spraying, what kind of things do you want to educate them on about your bees?
Well, you know, for instance, flowers, planting, pollinating flowers that attract them. When you plant flowers that aren't indigenous to our area, it confuses our native bees and they'll fly off. So when you put a bougainvillea or something does not belong in Colorado in your garden, it's just not going to do so well because the bees don't recognize it. There's different colors that the bees are attracted to in flowers. They're not so attracted to the reds, very much the purples and the blues. So you can very much pick your plants and attract bees. And don't forget the butterflies. There's 456 species of butterflies that are also very important for pollinating. So the success of your garden, your vegetables, your fruits, really depend on those pollinators. So, you know, helping, you know, even there's different states that will pay the homeowners to rip up their lawn and put in pollinator flowers. In Minnesota, the medians and the highways, and in Slovenia, the medians and the highways are pollinator plants. They save the taxpayer money for mowing and all sorts of things. The other thing I will say is get involved with your state representatives and your local representatives and put a bee in their ear, because that really makes a difference. And you guys, it's your generation that's unfortunately inheriting the mistakes of ours. And so your voice, you know, makes a big difference to the world. So the more you speak out, the better it is. We really need you.
Well, thank you for everybody for coming on today. This is a wonderful topic when we start talking about bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, all those important natural resources that we have that are out there doing a lot of beautiful work for us, and we get to enjoy the honey. But if you want to get out there, look at the Eagle County 4-H. They've got a lot of cool events coming up. Help support them in their cause for bees, and get out there and don't spray.
Yeah.
We'll be back soon with more Good Morning Vail.